Hi, I'm Sam Sells, and welcome to my podcast, Clean Money. I'm a serial entrepreneur that has led over 2 billion development projects around the world. But the work I am most proud of is the work we do here at Wild Mountain Capital. We not only create great returns for our socially conscious investors, but we make an impact in the many communities we work in and we change lives. I like to say investing matters, and my show is to talk with everyday folks that are not only creating great success, but making an impact in society and improving the lives of others. That is my mission, and I want to share my stories and others with you. Welcome to Clean Money. Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Clean Money Podcast, where we talk about investing our time and resources in a way that makes a big difference in the world. Today, I'm really excited to have Mark Manderson on the call with us today, Mark, you're doing great stuff on Instagram. I'll just introduce you real quick and then turn the floor over to you. Mark is a renowned mental health and addiction expert with over 20 years of experience in the field. He has dedicated his career to helping individuals overcome addiction and find lasting recovery. Through his work, Mark has empowered thousands of people to transform their lives and embrace a future filled with joy, purpose, and fulfillment. Mark, thank you so much for joining the pod.
Thank you for having me. And man, that intro makes me sound like I actually know what I'm doing.
I worked in healthcare for over a decade, hospital administrator. One thing I did learn, which blew my nugget, I guess, was that doctors don't know what they're doing. They're figuring it out based on their experience and the education they have. And they're listening and they're trying to decipher how to best help people. And so if you think medical professionals have all the answers, sometimes it's like the leg's broken and this is what we need to do. That's one thing. But mental health, on the other hand, holy smokes.
Well, you bring up a great point. I remember watching this series called House. I don't know if you've ever seen
Yeah.
it with I think it's Hugh Laurie, and
Hmm.
it's brilliant. It's like the hardest cases, and basically it's what does this resemble, and what is the widest net we can cast to see if we can start diagnosing, and then we get smaller, smaller, smaller. Most people think, oh, it's just a science, and there's science behind it, but there's really the art form that's blended with the science, and that's kind of like what we do. Um, so one of the things that popped up as you were saying that is we tend to trust doctors with everything, and like the amount of research we'll do to find the right doctor to make sure that they've got the degree and they're on the medical board and all these different things. Yet when it comes to our own internal dialogue, which is maybe where we go a little bit here, we will give this ultimate authority over everything and not look at the qualifications for it. And this kind of carries over into the mental health, the psychology, the addiction aspect of really high performers.
Yeah, interesting. So dig into that a little bit. When you're talking about a high performer versus a non-high performer, what do you mean first? And then why are high performers more likely to be addicted and are they?
Well, so if you look at all the other tabloids, usually the celebrities, it's the celebrities and rock stars, typically two people that make the most money and are just this creative type of person, tend to struggle with addiction. And there's the part of the brain that this creativity stokes. And when you put the part of addiction that is so gung ho, basically just laser focus on one outcome, regardless of anything, including health, family, different things. And so if you look at it from just a scientific standpoint, it's like we have access to the most efficient laser guidance system like ever known to man, which is up here. But if we're not focusing on what we want to guide it towards, a lot of times it turns to sedation, it turns to numbing out because a lot of high functioning individuals, entrepreneurs, executives don't know how to turn this off. And so that's a lot of the time we'll see people come through our center. We work with a lot of veterans too, probably 70 to 80% over the last 10 years. We've seen the change to veterans of coming back in. And it's like, that's right. The same part of the brain that is mission oriented, when it's not given a direction, it will self-sabotage.
I see that a lot with veterans. I'm a retired Air Force guy myself. I coach a lot of veterans on how to become entrepreneurs and how to raise capital and get into real estate. And one of the things that I've seen a lot is just that mental mindset of, what's the mission? Put me on the path and I'll go do that thing. Great, but there's all these other things and these nuances and in the and they have a struggle to take care of that. And something happens. I went through the same thing. When you come out of the military, your meaning, your life's meaning gets disrupted, right? You were here to fight for your country or to support your country and your fellow man, your guy in the foxhole, and all those things that you've been telling yourself, and uh, and then you come out of the military, and all of a sudden your meaning, like, what's the purpose of my life? Am I just here to get a W-2 job? If I'm just here to, and if they don't replace it, like if they don't find meaning in their lives, they addiction is a easy place to go to numb out.
Yeah, you mentioned purpose and worth. So one of the things I helped create a center for detox inpatient as well as outpatient over 20 years ago. And so I still run groups to this day. It's actually one of my favorite parts of my week is when I actually get to sit with the clients and get to help just kind of challenge perception and views of ways to look at different things. And one of the gentlemen actually shared, former military, and he's really struggling with self-worth. And we see this all the time. We start challenging our beliefs, our identity. And what was interesting, he kind of had this realization is we talked about his time in the service. He actually had 3 deployments
Mhm.
and he was struggling now putting himself first. He's just a beautiful soul of like, I want to serve, I want to help. And so the part that kind of rattled it loose for him is let's take a look at the self-worth of where my belief is I'm willing to go and fight and actually die for strangers I've never even met for my country, but I'm not willing to put myself first. And this helped kind of expose some of these insecurities that we all have as human beings. It's not like it was unique to him. But as he started to understand this, he started to open up and kind of challenge of I get to choose what I'm going to be an asset for. What is my newfound purpose? Because he had multiple repetitions of when I have a mission in front of me, I carry it out flawlessly. We have contingency plans, all sorts of things, but I execute. And so now it's becoming an asset for the government too, becoming an asset for purpose. And like we were talking about before we jumped on here, and clean money. How do I do something that I absolutely love? I get to impact people, the world, and I should get paid to do it. Like you talk about winning the lottery. That to me is the lottery.
Those what you just said there, like, how do I impact people? How do I make a difference? How do I live a life of meaning? How do I create sustainable systems? Like, these were the exact questions I was asking myself in 2018 as I saw my military career was coming to an earlier end than I expected. Um, and that drove me to create a social impact, investment company that focuses on changing the lives of the neglected, the passed over, the bottom rung of society, at least that housing, the affordable housing. And that created a lot of meaning for me. And that's how I was able, even I still struggled mentally, like going through leaving the military behind, and that's part of your identity and who you are. And that's how you walk, and that's how you talk, and that's how you salute, and that's how you act and you defer, and like all those things just gets ripped out. And all of a sudden you're just like, who am I? So I was able to create something before I got out that gave me meaning. How do you help people find meaning um, when they haven't created a brand new life for themselves?
Well, the first thing is just that first question of awareness is who am I if I can't do anything? And this is the part that is so challenging because if we look at ourselves from a holistic standpoint, we have souls, we're beings. What I do doesn't define who I am. And so, first, I guess what comes to mind is if we break time down into 3 different aspects, there's the past, the present, and the future. We create a lot of our own pain. And so, when a
Mhm.
person comes out where their reality for the present, their entire life, once they get out, it was I am part of something bigger, part of something greater, and there is an outcome or a purpose that we're looking for. And so once they're out of that, they're holding on to the past. So that the first thing we look at is what am I holding on to from the past that is creating this internal conflict. Now in the present, this is where people tend to resist. And what I mean by that is if I'm resisting something, like the thing that pops up in my mind is we're over here on the West Coast, right by the beach, and they you see kids playing with these giant beach balls. Well, if you go out in the water and you try to push it down, the further you try to push it down, the more counter resistance to push it up. And so we see a lot of people trying to push different feelings down, different thoughts, emotions. And the more they push, the more resistance comes up. And this is what creates pain in the present, is resisting what is. And then when we look at the future, where we can find hope in different things, where people create their own pain is they try to avoid what may or may not happen in the future. So they're basically oscillating from past to present to future, creating all this pain, as opposed to looking at it saying, I've got the resources. I've got these skills. I always think of Liam Neeson. I have a special set of skills. It's like I've got these skills. Now that I'm on my time, knowing I don't have to do anything, let's release that pressure. I don't have to be or do anything. I just get to be me. What is it that I want to do? And the second part of this is purpose can be seasonal. This is the part that screwed me up out of college. I was so terrified for the longest time of what if I choose the wrong purpose? You only get one shot at this life. If I choose wrong, my whole life is ruined. So it created all this false weight. And
Yeah.
so I didn't do anything for a while, and that led to depression. Where actually I wrote a book a few years ago. Enough people kept saying, "Man, you got to share your story," and I got sick of saying it audibly. So I wrote a book. But so much pressure, it led me to walking out one day with the intent to take my own life. That's how much pressure there was because, like you were saying, belief, identity, I didn't know what to do. And fortunately, I met this old man. It's funny, back then when I was in my late teens, early 20s, old to me was 16. Now that's young. But this one guy was in better shape than me. Like he was just this phenomenon. And so I would start talking to him at the gym, and I was just open. I'm a very open book. So I just shared with him, like, man, I'm struggling. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And he started laughing. He goes, Mark, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I was kind of like, you know those moments in life where it kind of slaps you and you're kind of like, wait, what? That just challenged everything in me. What do you mean? He goes, well, I wanted to be a teacher, so I taught for 15, 20 years. Then I wanted to be a coach, so I became a coach. And then I wanted to travel the world, so I got a sailboat and traveled for about 10 years. And he taught me purpose can be seasonal.
Yeah.
And that was the part where I was like, oh, nobody ever taught me that. You mean I can choose a purpose now, and maybe it lasts a lifetime or not. But if I choose one now, it may get me closer to my ultimate purpose, or at least like continue to stoke that fire. And he goes, yeah, he goes, I'm on my fourth purpose in my life so far. He goes, I don't know how many more I'll have. But by not being tied to the outcome, being tied to the journey, you're one decision away from finding your purpose. And I was like, oh, this was before cell phone days. I'm like, let me write that down in my journal.
Yeah. I love that. That's just incredible. So how do you help, like, what are you doing right now to help people find that purpose?
So there's a few different things I mentioned before. So I run a treatment center. So we have a whole team of doctors, therapists, case managers. Like the team is phenomenal. So they will actually kind of unpack everything and help the individual find out what their desires are, their likes, how they want to be seen in this world, how they want to be known, and they help work through the trauma and then get to that type of purpose. And then what I do is I work a lot with entrepreneurs and executives from a higher level to find out what is it that you're missing? What is the feeling? So one of the questions I like asking is when they keep going to that drink or the pill, what is the feeling that you are hoping for when you reach for that drink? And what that does is that starts to expose the different stories, these own self-limiting beliefs that get in the way of us really becoming our true potential. Like once we figure out what the purpose is, even if it's seasonal, and we get the resources and the skills to go over that, now life becomes a game, and it's this beautiful game of how do I get better? Like I'll take care of me for you. How do I get better for me so I can give you the information to continue to make more impact? Did
Yeah.
that answer your question?
Yeah. That's fantastic. So what are you doing for you?
So I'm a big person of consistency and habits, and it's why actually I got a copy right here. It's why I wrote this book. So what I did is probably after the first 10 to 15 years, I started seeing some people leave the program and going and flourishing, starting more businesses, first businesses for some people, starting families, basically creating their dream life. And then I would see other people leave and then come back like a year later. That's kind of like what. you guys came at the same time. You had the same therapist, sat in the same didactic sessions, the classes. What is different? And I've always been just curious. I've always been that person that asks the questions that most people are like, dude, that's dumb. Don't ask. I'm like, I don't care. I want to understand this. And so
Yeah.
I started seeing 5 specific habits that the ones that were flourishing would do and the ones that weren't didn't do. And so I started looking, I'm like, it can't be that easy, can it? And so I started breaking it down. We call it the 5 foundational freedoms and started breaking it down. And so what I do every single day is I call it first fruits or the 5 to thrive. It's like you know when you fly and the person gets on Southwest is great because they make it funny. But when you're
Yeah.
about ready to fly, they say, listen, if it gets a little sideways and the oxygen mask pop down, they don't say take care of your wife, take care of your kids, help that screaming baby. Three, they say put the oxygen on yourself first. Because if you don't, like you'll be asphyxiated. You can't help anybody else. So that's what first fruits is. It's putting the oxygen mask on yourself that first hour of every single day. You take care of yourself across these 5 foundations. And then what that does is that gives you the fuel to really seek your purpose over the next 23 hours, minus the sleep time.
That's awesome. So what are those? So those are in your book?
Yeah, yeah. The book, and it's called The Recovery Way. You can find it on Amazon. But yeah, I'll be more than happy to go over the 5 foundational freedoms for you. So it's very simple. Those that were thriving in life were taking care of their fitness every single day. So same thing as health. So sweating. And this is what I love about framework is whatever season you are in life, you can input whatever it is you want as long as you use the framework. And so it's sweating each day, making sure that we're getting out there and moving our bodies. Like if we look at basically human existence over first recorded life all the way to now, 99% of life was spent moving and grooving and getting out there, not sitting behind a computer. And so movement actually there's a lot of scientific things behind it too. It releases the feel good chemicals, basically the serotonin, which lasts longer. It takes away from some of the cortisol, the adrenaline, the different things that are always hard pumping. We're not meant to go 24/7 like we are with TV and screens. So it's really taking care of your fitness and health. Second part, and it's in no particular order, but is faith, some form of spirituality, something about I'm not the center of the universe. When I get outside of myself and kind of looking at the clean money idea, when I am doing something to serve other people, I feel whole. When I am taking, I feel like there's a part of me missing. So it's this, I call it space and solitude, creating this quiet space. And what we tell our clients is the grace is found in the space. If I can create space and allow this white space, I can actually feel, and I call it communion with my creator. It gives me divine downloads. I'm able to think of solutions that I couldn't before. And so it's spending time really dialoguing with your creator. Next is family and friends, which is basically relationships, continuing to pour in and invest in relationships. So we get a lot of people that are either in the middle of or getting close to divorce time when it comes to some of the behaviors that have come up. And what we look at is, well, what did you do when you were dating? Well, we're pursuing, we're investing time and energy and just thoughts, and we're getting to know them and wooing them. So one of the things we say is if you treat the end like it was the beginning, there will never be an end. And so I practice this in my marriage. How do I pursue my wife for the rest of my life? And so it's pouring into those relationships that you want to. And so it's just sending little notes, like a little love note on a sticky, texting my daughter, thinking of you, sweetie. Thanks so much. It was fun watching Gilmore Girls with you last night. Whatever it is, you're
Yeah.
pouring into relationships. And then finances is a big one, your career. And so making sure that you're learning and growing, we call it evolve and expand. And so the ones that were doing well, they were growing. One of the aspects that I didn't realize till much later, till college, is that everything in this life is learned. Nobody was born with the knowledge that they have of whether it's business, investing. Everybody learned that behavior, learned the knowledge, and then began to apply it. So it's kind of like, whoa, I can get better and better every single day. at whatever my niche is, wherever my purpose is, and I can actually use that information to help other people deeper and wider. So we look to study every single day. We're a lifetime student. And then we had those four for a while and we felt like we were missing something. And so the fifth and final one, what all this sits on is the strength, the bedrock, the foundation, and it's the foundation of feelings, making sure that we are exploring this whole gambit of feelings. They've actually done quite a few studies. And now my math may be off. You can Google this and get the exact numbers, but I think there's something like, I don't know, 2,500 or 3,000 different words in the English language of different feelings and emotions we can experience. And so they interviewed a lot of people and said, on an average week, how many feelings do you have? And can you guess what the number was for like 99% of the people of how many feelings they experience in a given week?
Probably three.
Yeah, yeah. It was around like 5 to 7
Oh,
max
there you go.
out of the thousands and thousands. So what happens when all I have is a hammer to build something?
Yeah.
Everything looks like a nail, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Have you ever tried to nail a screw?
Yeah. That's terrible.
It doesn't work. So if I'm only feeling a certain amount of emotions, and most people have one or two primary driving emotions, well, if it's not pleasant, we're going to sedate or numb out or do something to try to no longer experience this. So part of the framework is really diving in to understand and uncover the feelings. And we do this through a morning routine and also something I created an app probably 7 or 8 years ago called Recovery Chat. And it's kind of like a journal with prompted questions that helps you explore things from different perceptions and different perspectives. And we found that basically the brain and your emotions are muscles. And we can actually expand the emotional muscle to be able to feel different range of emotions, but also learn how to observe the feelings versus identify as because I'm feeling this, this is who I am. I feel worthless, therefore I am worthless. We start challenging some of that. So those are what the five foundations are.
That's fantastic. You know, we've heard things like the five daily non-negotiables. We've heard, um, I have a coach who talks about the big four, and I'm like, but you're leaving out spirituality or faith, or mental health, which is feelings. Um, I love this. It's a simple, simple tool, to help us. And I know, like for me, my day, every single day, I start out with, prayer. I get moving. I eat breakfast with my son at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'll read the scriptures. He eats Cheerios or whatever, and um, he's special needs, so he's on his iPad doing his thing, but we just sit together and hang out, and then I exercise, and then I prepare my day, like how many things am I going to do, who am I going to talk to, and all those things to prepare my finances, and then I just have this rule that if my wife or my kids are trying to talk to me, I put down my phone and I am present. And I love that. Our relationships are so important. And if you listen to me, like when you look at the gurus and like it just having stuff is the goal of life. And having stuff is not the goal of life. To me, the goal of life is creating, you know, a life that you're happy, where you make a difference, where you improve other people's life, where you create value to others. And that meaning, yeah, maybe you do have a fancy car and a nice house or whatever, but like that's not it. The meaning is our relationships, the meanings in living this very, very fulfilling life. And these five things, the recovery way, is fantastic, Mark. And it's based on science, which is awesome.
Yeah, when you mix the science with the art, and another thing you're saying that I resonated with is I so I say this somewhat joking, but not so much. I learn at about a third or fourth grade level. I remember in college I struggled, and I finally had one teacher that actually began to pour into me, and I saw it as a liability. And it was
Mhm.
interesting because I would sit front row, I would go to the office hours before class, after class, and that was barely to get C's. And so I had a professor in college who kind of saw this pattern, and man, my negative self talk was so strong back then. And one of these days, he just talked to me and he said, He said, let me show you how to take complex things and break them down because I've heard you say, you learn at third or fourth grade level. He goes, we actually all do. You've just found a way that you will sit in the pocket and your patience is pretty impressive. That once you get it, it's locked in. He goes, Mark, that's a superpower. Like that's not a liability. That is an asset. If you can take things in life and turn this into business where you can take complex things and break it down into simple systems, this is how you create a life worthy of a calling.
Yeah.
And that is where I just by asking questions and then I think, okay, I got to understand it where I can actually internalize it. And so that's why a lot of the work that we do is taking these complex scientific things and breaking it down to like third, fourth grade level and then attaching names to them and just kind of memorable things such as the five foundational freedoms. And it's like, oh my gosh, this makes it so easy because most of us are doing it. We just don't know enough to keep doing it. A lot of people will do certain aspects, but not integrate all five. And so like with wealth, I'm in Orange County, California. There's definitely a lot of wealth down here. You'll see those that flex their wealth muscle and they're doing fantastic on the financial aspect. But when
Mhm.
you ask them, well, what about family and friends? I don't have any friends, and my fourth wife is about to leave me. And it's kind of like, oh, what if we were able to fully integrate all that? That is true wealth.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a mental health question for you, and it's really about policy. My master's degree is in health policy. I spent a fair amount of time in DC, working in global health and looking at policies and working with a lot of very influential people in that space. But one of the things that's always boggled my mind is why can't mental health practitioners cross state lines, right? Like if your client is in Texas visiting, like you're not supposed to talk to them on the phone or you're not supposed to have any kind of mental health. Because obviously, state by state, if you go across the line, clearly mental health changes. I'm just kidding.
No, I know that was great. I pictured because we'll go to Arizona every once in a while, and when you drive, you see the sign that says "Welcome to Arizona." It's like I'm on the California side. Someone's in the need of help right there. I'm like, sorry, you know what? We could lose our license. I just can't help you. I can't take the step over. Uh,
It's
so yeah, I mean,
ridiculous, right?
well, because there's different laws, but the biggest thing that I look at is, okay, if I'm coming from my heart and a person is in need, can I truly help them without having to give a diagnosis, without having to go ahead and put on the licensed clinician aspect? And
Hmm.
so that's why here we've got people way smarter, I mean, with PhDs and licenses that I don't hold a candle next to. The one thing that I do end up doing is coming from the heart and just looking to help another human being. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all spiritual beings, just wanting to be seen, wanting to be connected and heard. And when we're not getting that, we do a lot of self-destruction trying to achieve that.
Yeah, a lot of self-destruction, and we all do it. Uh, we all do it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned one thing when you're talking about how you put your phone down when your kids or family want something, you're present. Man, that's one of the areas of weakness for me and this is where sometimes we see the collision with purpose and wanting to be with the family is I do my best from 5 to 9. I put the phone down, but I don't know how. Like I'll be in another room and it magically appears in my hand and I'll just trying to be helping people and my wife will look over and I'm like, oh. So that struggle is real with me, man, of trying to balance that. So that one hit home.
Yeah, it's tough. I am guilty as sin on that one. It's like you're feeling like I'm helping somebody with a problem. And wife's like, well, does it have to be at 9 o'clock at night? And the answer is, well, I have 15 book calls tomorrow. And they're in need right now. And making that balance of how do you help people you don't, and still be present for your family it can be tough. But you don't need to spend hours present is one of the things I've also learned. You just need to be present when they are there and trying to experience time with you, right? And that's, we can set things down for a few minutes, for 10 minutes, for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or an hour.
Yeah, it's quality time, not necessarily quantity when you put the two together. But yeah, well, that's that's one aspect where I know for a lot of my early career, I would give my best to strangers and give my family the scraps that were left over. And so fortunately, I have a fiery, very independent woman as a wife who has no problem telling me where I am falling short and helps me realign with purpose and say, wait a minute, I don't want a life where I'm bringing the leftovers home. I want a life where I am actually able to perform in all aspects. I'm giving my family my first fruit. So that's why every single morning, the morning routine. And do you mind if I give a gift to your
Yeah,
viewers?
absolutely.
So my Instagram handle is at Mark C. Manderson. And I actually put together, after enough people asked, I put together my morning routine that I have seen after working with thousands and thousands of individuals and families of what works and what doesn't work. And I just basically boiled that down. It goes into more depth of the five foundational freedoms, but what that looks like for first fruits. So that way it's like putting jet fuel into your system so you can perform the rest of the day. And then just go ahead and DM me blueprint. We'll do that. DM me blueprint and I will send you that habits blueprint.
All right, I'll make sure we include that into the notes. And I know some of you guys who are listening to this call are thinking, like, I don't need to do that. And the chances are, if you're thinking, I don't need to do that, you do need to do that because I will tell you just this year, reinvigorating my daily habits and making sure I'm aligned has made a big difference for me already. One of the things that had fallen off my plate was fitness because I just justified I needed to be doing other things and nobody cares if I'm fit or not. It's not about them caring if I'm fit or not. It's about my mental health, which is tied to my fitness and how I present. And I already feel better by being consistent. I don't care about looking about like Arnold or anybody else like that. I just need to be fit and happy so that I can be mentally aware and get after things. So DM Blueprint to at Mark C. Manderson on Instagram. Go follow him, subscribe. I've seen your stuff. It's excellent content. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
How else can our viewers find you, Mark?
Well, so our center is we also have a handle at Pacific Shores Recovery. We have a website, www.pacificshoresrecovery.com, and that is the full spectrum of detoxification, residential treatment, outpatient treatment, and then to answer your question before of going through state lines, we actually have certified case managers that are viewed differently as licensed than licensed clinicians. So we do a virtual program. And the cool thing is it's cash pay, but also we take insurances. And ever since COVID hit, we actually launched this in 2019 before COVID. And this is where I'll piggyback what you said, because I do the faith part every single morning. And some people call it whiteboard thinking time. Some people call it meditation. Some call it prayer. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's basically just creating white space and sitting in solitude. I started feeling a tap of saying start something virtual, and I didn't even know what Zoom was. There's this thing called Zoom. Get on there and just look to help your clients that are going back home reintegrate back home. And so we launched it, got wonderful results. COVID hit. We were one of the few around that were already had it all set up and doing it. So we have a wonderful virtual program for anybody who is struggling, maybe sedating more than they want. I know a lot nowadays, a lot of people are taking too many gummies at night, just trying to turn the brain off. There are healthier ways to do that, that the organic byproduct of doing it in a healthy way is you see the fitness realm, you get better shape. The faith realm, you feel closer to your creator. The family and friends. Well, we have a lot of people say, our intimacy is skyrocketing because of this program. Thank you. Financially, starts going in feelings, you expand. So it's a beautiful thing of being able to jump on something like this and to be able to help people that are thousands of miles away.
It's amazing. Half the world away, all the way around the world. It's amazing. Well, I would encourage you to continue to share that message on Instagram and other platforms as loudly and boldly as possible because we need, uh, especially as Americans, we hide that stuff and we don't talk about it. It's like money. Nobody talks about money. Like you can't ask somebody how much money they make because that is so taboo. But you can talk about all the terrible things you want. You just can't talk about money. You can't talk about mental health because that's so taboo. How dare anyone know that you're struggling, you know? And I, yeah, that's something that we're slowly working on as a society. And good for you for really pushing that and sharing that and being very open about it.
Yeah, we just hit our 25-year anniversary this month. So that is pretty cool. And it's funny because I'm in my 40s now. And so I did commercial real estate right out of college. Some of my friends stuck with it and they retired. And so it's funny. They'll say, when are you going to retire? And I'm like, I built a life I will never retire from. Like
Yeah.
I have created a life where my purpose is fuel to help people and I make a profit off of helping people. Like, why would you ever want to leave that? Like everything is taken care of. I could just continue to get to perform my calling. And so one of the things, like you're saying, is of clean money is like, how can you set your life up that you don't ever want to sedate or take time off because you have created that ideal life? And again, it's seasonal. And so that's why I want to be doing this in my hundreds. My goal is my brain stays sharp enough that I can continue doing this in my hundreds.
I love it. I'm the same way. I never want to retire. I just want to keep going. It's not about accumulation of stuff. It's about helping. It's about making a difference. It's about, yeah.
Well,
It's,
and have you found that it's like the more people you help, it's like the money always comes when you are aligned with a higher calling. If you make it about the profit, it's like it doesn't happen. If you make it about the people, profit follows. Have you found that?
for me, it's exactly that way. If I focus on profit, it's like, so I believe in God. I believe God's like, nope. You know, Matt, Sam, you're on the wrong path. Like I'm tapping you on the shoulder here gently, focus on the things that really matter. And when I focus on the things that really matter, then the profit follows. And not only that, it's like the people and the partnerships I get to meet wonderful people like yourself that are truly out there that care a ton, that are trying to make a difference in the world, that give us hope that, we have a future as a society and that there are good people. And that's reinvigorating to my soul. And we can do that and make a lot of money in the same time. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, thank you, Mark, so much for coming on the show. We'll leave in the show notes where folks can reach out to you. Folks, please DM Mark or go to Instagram at Mark C. Manderson, Manderson, or DM him the word blueprint. Get that blueprint down and enter his world. Follow him, like, subscribe, and make sure you're taking care of yourselves. And you laid out the blueprint perfectly for us all. So, Mark, thank you so much for coming on the show. Any
Yeah,
last
thank you.
words?
Thank you. No, just I'm glad that we crossed paths and got to chat about how we're wanting to make an impact and encouraging others to. I mean, once people step into their purpose, it is amazing what can be done in this lifetime. I mean, it's a wild ride, man.
It's a wild ride, but it's amazing what can be accomplished. Even one person can make a difference, and everyone should try. This is something JFK said that I really align with. We should all try. Thank you so much, Mark.
You got it. Have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in to Clean Money, where we talk about sustainable investing that improves society. We are passionate about creating great investment returns to investors who want to use their money to make a positive social impact in the world. If you enjoyed the episode, we'd appreciate a 5-star review. And if you are interested in making your investing matter, please connect with us at wildmountaincapital.com, or you can find me, Samuel Sells, on LinkedIn, on Twitter at Sells_Samuel, on Instagram at Clean Money Sam, or on Facebook. And finally, make your investing matter.